again, boys and girls, and welcome to part 2 of our time lesson. So last week we were learning about o'clock and half-past times, and if you need to revise them, be sure to watch lesson 1 again on the YouTube channel. But today we are moving on to quarter-past times, and we're also going to learn a little bit about the digital clock. First, however, let's stay focused on the analog clock, which is the one with the hands. Now, if you remember from lesson 1, when we were learning about half-past times, we tried to visualize the clock as a pizza divided into 2 equal parts, into 2 halves. Today we are going to do the same with quarter-past times. A quarter is a fraction that means something is broken equally into 4 parts, and it looks like this. So if we compare that to our clock, it might help us to remember where the quarter-past hand goes. But first, let's try and work it out. If the whole clock has 60 minutes on it, and half the clock has 30 minutes on it, how many minutes do you think will need to pass for it to be quarter past? To find a quarter of a number, first you half the number and then you half the number again. So if we have 60 minutes in a whole clock and we half it, that means half of 60 is 30. And we know that the 30-minute mark is the half-past mark on the clock when the big hand points to 6. So now we need to know what is half of 30, because this will tell us how much a quarter is. So half of 30 is 30 divided into 2 equal parts. So correct, the answer is 15, which means 15 is 1/4 of 60. So when 15 minutes pass on the clock, this means the time becomes quarter past. So the big hand has moved 15 times and ends up pointing at the number 3. Remember how each of the numbers on the clock represent 5 minutes? Well, if we make this clock 3 o'clock and move in 5-minute jumps, let's see where we will end up after 15 minutes have passed. So 5 minutes have passed, 10 minutes, and now 15. And look, just as we thought, the big minute hand is pointing at 3, which means it is a quarter past time. The hour hand is pointing a little bit after 3 because we are 15 minutes after the hour of 3 o'clock. So the time on this clock is quarter past 3. Now let's visualize all that again using the pizza to help. So this is what a pizza looks like when divided into 4 equal parts. One of these sections is known as a quarter. Let's put this quarter of pizza on the face of the clock to see if it will help us find out where the minute hand might point if it is a quarter past time. Do you notice? This pizza slice shows us that the minute hand will point to 3 to show us clearly that a quarter of the hour has passed. Just as we saw on the last clock. Well done. Let's do more quarter past times. The clock is now 8 o'clock. What would it look like if 15 minutes of time passed and it was quarter past 8? Do you know? Where would the big hand be pointing? Remember the pizza. It might help you visualize it. Well done. The big hand would point to 3. So quarter past would look like this. Let's jump in 5-minute jumps. 5, 10, 15 minutes have passed. Well done. Now it is 8:15. Great work. Now let's do another one. Let's make the time 11:15. We'll start by making the time 11 o'clock. And now we know to make quarter past, 15 minutes of time must pass. So let's jump again in 5s. 5, 10, 15 minutes have passed. Well done. The big hand is now pointing to 3, meaning it is 1/4 time. Now look at the little hand, or hour hand. Is it pointing exactly at 11? No, because it is not 11 o'clock anymore. 15 minutes of time has passed the hour of 11, which means the hour hand should be a little bit past 11. Let's make one more 1/4 time. Let's make the time 1:15. To start, let's make 1 o'clock. And now we know that 1:15 will mean 15 minutes have to pass the hour of 1. So jump in 5s. 5, 10, 15 minutes have passed. Well done. The big hand is now pointing to 3, meaning it is 1/4 time. And look at the little hand, the hour hand. Is it pointing exactly at 1 anymore? No, you're right, it's not. Because it is not 1 o'clock anymore. 15 minutes of time have passed since the hour of 1, which means the hour hand should, like this, be a little bit past the number 1. So what have we learned today? When it is 1/4 time, it means 15 minutes of the hour have passed, because 15 is 1/4 of an hour, which is made up of 60 minutes. So the rule is, when it is 1/4 time, the big minute hand should be pointing to the number 3, and the little hour hand should be pointing a little bit past the hour in question. So 9:15 would look like this. 12:15 would look like this. And 6:15 would look like this. As you can see, each time it was 1/4 time, the big hand pointed to 3, and the little hand was always pointing a little bit past the hour in question. Good job. Make sure you practice 1/4 times yourself on the online teaching clock. Practicing your times is so important, and it ensures that you remember them all going into 3rd class. Now we're going to learn a little bit about the digital clock. I'm sure you have seen these types of clocks before, especially on smartphones. It's another way to tell the time. On the digital clock, the hour is written first, in tens and units, and the minutes that have passed that hour are written next, again in tens and units. The hours and minutes are separated by 2 dots that look like this. Sometimes you might see a 3rd set of numbers on a digital clock, again in tens and units. If you do see these, they are marking the seconds in time that are passing, so they move and change very quickly. But today we are only going to focus on hours and minutes. To show you the digital clock and how it relates to the analog clock, we are going to use a different online clock. And here it is. I will link this below the video if you'd like to play around with it yourself at home. So this big analog clock says 11 o'clock at the moment. Now look here in the middle. This is a digital clock that is telling the same time. But you'll see the hour, which is 11, is written first. And after the 2 dots in between, you can see 00. This set of double zeros represents the minutes that have passed the hour. And at the moment, no minutes have passed the hour because the time is exactly 11 o'clock. However, watch what happens when I move the big minute hand on the analog clock. I'm going to move it one space. So 1 minute has passed the hour of 11, meaning the digital clock reads 11:01. If I move it again, it will read 11:02 because 2 minutes have passed. Remember how each number on the analog clock represents 5 minutes? And now you can see this on the outer black rim of this clock. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, and so on. Well, watch what happens when I move the minute hand between the numbers on the analog clock. When I reach 1, it says 11:05 because 5 minutes have passed. When I reach 2, it says 11:10 because 10 minutes have passed. And when I reach 3, it says 11:15 because 15 minutes have passed. So look at the analog clock now. What time is it? Well done. It is 11:15 time. It is 11:15. And we know that when it is 11:15 time, that means 15 minutes of time has passed, which means 11:15 on a digital clock is this, 11:15. What do you think the digital clock will say when it is 1/2 time? How many minutes in half a clock? How many minutes have to pass? Can you remember? Well done, 30 minutes. Let's check if you're right. So to make 11:30, our big hand will have to point to 6. Watch the minutes move on the digital clock while I move the hand. And now I'm at 11:30. And look at the digital clock. It says 11:30 because 30 minutes have passed 11 o'clock. Well done. We have now learned 3 very important digital times. When it is an o'clock time, it means no minutes have passed, so there will always be 2 zeros after the dots. When it is 1/4 time, it means 15 minutes have passed an hour, so there will always be the number 15 after the dots. And when it is 1/2 time, it means 30 minutes have passed an hour, so there will always be the number 30 after the dots. So 5 o'clock on an analog clock would look like this, and on a digital clock it would look like this. The hour first, 5, followed by 2 dots, and then a 00 because no minutes have passed. 5:15 on an analog clock would look like this, and on a digital clock it would look like this. The hour first, 5, followed by the 2 dots, and then the number 15 because 15 minutes have passed. So 5:15 can also be called 5:15. And finally, 5:30 on an analog clock would look like this. And on a digital clock, it would look like this. The hour first, 5, followed by the 2 dots, and then the number 30, because 30 minutes have passed. So 5:30 can also be called 5:30. Let's have a little quiz. I will show you an analog clock time first, and you have to write down what you think the digital time will look like. Here we go. What time is it here? Well done. It is 8 o'clock. Now, guess how you might write that in digital form. Go. And this is the answer. 8 o'clock. Did you get it right? Well done. 8 followed by 2 dots, followed by a 00 because it was an o'clock time and no minutes had passed. Okay, 2 more. What time is it here? Well done. 7:15. Now guess how you might write that in digital form. When it is 1/4 time, how many minutes of the hour have passed? Go. And this is the answer. 7:15. Did you get it right? Well done. 7 followed by 2 dots, followed by the number 15, because when it is 1/4 time, that means 15 minutes of the hour have passed. Last one. What time is it here? Well done. 10:30. Now guess how you might write 10:30 in digital form. When it is 1/2 time, how many minutes of the hour have passed? Go. And this is the answer. 10:30. Did you get it right? Well done. 10 followed by 2 dots, followed by the number 30, because when it is 1/2 time, that means 30 minutes of the hour have passed. Great work, guys! So now it's time for you to practice your digital times as well as your analog times for o'clock, 1/2, and 1/4 times. Next week's lesson will get even trickier, so be sure to practice a lot in between using the links below. Have fun and see you all again next week.